Okay, let's go to Katie P.
Hello. Hi, Lisa. Hi,
Hi,
Angelo.
Katie. Hello. It's been a minute.
So the Kentucky retreat was perfect. I don't know how to say it, but I just got so much out of it. And one of the things that it has accomplished for me is like a rebalancing. I felt like I was out of whack, unbalanced for a while, unbalanced in the sense of happiness, like too much. And that's not a bad place to be. But now that it's corrected, oh man, I just feel much more even, much more mature, much more settled in a very, very positive way. And I'd highly recommend Chris. I followed up with Chris with the TRE because that seemed like the best antidote to whatever, because I feel like I'm getting to some of the deeper stuff now. And she's been very helpful pointing out what might not be obvious. It's like, it's not obvious to the person that's experiencing it, otherwise you'd see it. So I just really appreciate her. And what I'm coming up with now, the good old fear and dread, but it's really sneaky because my baseline has been contentment and happiness for quite a number of years. Um, the dread was actually welcome because it was something different. It's like, oh, this is a different taste, different flavor. So I try to move the dread that I can easily summon up because life is dreadful at times. And I try to feel it in my body. Like, Lisa, I want to hear your words on this. But it feels like an oval, arrangement in my upper body. And I almost feel like I need to do more TRE to get that block, lower blockage open. There's something going on there. Chris pointed out that sometimes our trauma is from birth order, like things that you're not even aware of. And then I almost died when my daughter was born. So I know I've got these things in my body that I need to clear out. Giving birth to a child is traumatic, but then almost dying from it is a whole nother level. So when I get into the dread and welcome it, it has a flavor of mischievous joy. Like I can almost be happy about it. Like let's play. I don't know how to explain it. It's not at all scary, even though I can summon the feelings of fear and the feeling of dread. I almost feel like it's a bit superficial, like I really haven't gotten down far enough. Like I'm just tasting it, just playing with it, just teasing it. And I don't know, it's just funny. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I'm kind of dancing with the fear barrier because it seems to me like something really big, in a relative way. It's not big at all, but relatively, it seems to me that something's up, and I want to embrace it.
Mm, love it. Do you have anything to start with, Lisa, or you want me to start?
Um, yeah, I'll start. I mean, I think it all sounds perfect, really. And yeah, oftentimes things are not as big as we think they're going to be. And this is really what this process can be about a lot of times with emotion work and things where you realize after the fact that, wow, there was really nothing, really not much there. So, you know, and I did want to say something also too, that sometimes when we're feeling an energy in the body like this, and we might come to the conclusion that, oh, I need to do more TRE, I need to do more of this, I should do that. Sometimes that is the case, but sometimes it's not, and sometimes it's okay to just stay where you are with yourself and sit and just be with the feeling of the energy in the body. If you really need to do a more direct modality, your intuition is going to kick in, and it's just going to open that up. It's just going to do that for you. But sometimes you just need to sit with it. And that's basically what all of this is about, is sitting with everything and just feeling it, all energies, whether they feel huge or highly traumatic. And, you talked about, your childbirth trauma. And yes, I can imagine that there could be, quite a energetic charge there, but all of these things can definitely just be sat with and felt. And if you're touching into it, and it's feeling not as serious as dread should feel according to the mind, maybe that is exactly what it is, and maybe there isn't really a lot more there to sort of find. It will show itself anyway. So I hope that helped a little bit.
Well, that's an interesting perspective. It plays very nicely into my usual, oh, I'm just good about that. Yep, cool.
Well, Katie, her perception was exactly mine on that, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it could be something really big, ready to drop out or something, but you don't know that. And the reason I think I was, as she was talking, I was reflecting on like what reason I will give you for this. The reason I think that this feels to me like it may not be as big as you think, like this big thing, that's just the mind story going on, is a couple things. One is I know you, and you always really do just, you don't just say it, but you feel very equanimous to me generally. And number two, very specifically, your own description of how you encounter these energies, how you encountered the dread, shows me like a very deep maturity and realization that you, first of all, you're curious about it. You're completely open to it. Obviously, that you're not faking it, and you're not just trying to like pretend that you're happy with it to get rid of it or heal it or something. You're like genuinely coming into contact with this with an open heart and an open energetic. So all of that tells me that I think you're just in a very mature place experientially and with insight. And I really don't think there's much to do but what you're already doing. Your instincts are very, very good. And things become kind of anticlimactic. Things do really calm down quite a bit. And it's been that way for you for some time. But this is, these energies can still come up. You can still find a bit of dread or anger or something that's just remnants of things, the roots of suffering. They can still come up, of course. And that's good that we have the opportunity to see things at deeper and deeper levels, but it does get very subtle at some point, and that will help attune you to any interactions you have with other people and maybe picking things up in them or helping soothe people, even if you're not talking about something directly, just energetically the way you move. So, so to me, I feel a lot of maturity there, and these funny thoughts that pop up here and there that say, "Oh, this could be this or that," or maybe it is. Who knows? But they're usually just thoughts.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I was circling the event horizon and having a very good time. It comes up. It comes up as a metaphor. Like my mind displays a metaphor of, oh man, something big is about to happen, but let's have fun surfing the edge here.
It's so funny what the mind says. The mind says
Oh,
the craziest things.
yeah, and it was like, are you distracting me with joy and fun, or is there something here? Do I need to like dive in the middle of the blackness? So I'm going to go for the blackness and then dismiss it.
Yeah. The blackness, and you're going to find the blackness and the light aren't two things. That's like the deeper truth of non-duality is the presencing textures are also completely empty.
Yeah, that's kind of what I came up with, was that dread and joy are the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That it has one taste. It's just the coin, and then which side are you looking at?
Beautiful.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Okay, someone typed a whole long thing here, but I don't know if it's not sure. Okay. I'm gonna go to, we'll go right in the middle. Brandon.
Hi, Angela.
Hey.
You've been super clear and direct in your videos. I appreciate it. It's really neat.
My pleasure.
And lots of nuance. So I was curious. So like about a year ago, I started integrating I'd seen this before, but hadn't been able to integrate it. There's kind of a few things where there's no edge to the horizon, there's no end to anything, and there's no center, and it's sort of transparent. There's no solidity, and I've been kind of using that as a way to not be reactive, in situations where I would normally, it's like there's no place for it to hit or land. And yeah, so I was just curious what the next step would be. I feel like I've been integrating that for a while, and just and it's interesting too, because everything seems to unfold naturally in its own way. So
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why I have this curiosity, like if it would even help, whatever you say, but maybe this is the next step. I don't know.
Yeah, as it's funny, as you're speaking, the answer that I'm going to give you, you're answering yourself. Because the first thing I was going to ask you, as you were describing what is clear, formless, non-dual realization, is there a sense of this whole thing proceeding from a place of spontaneity rather than a sense of doership or seeking or anything? And it's pretty obvious that it is, but then you answered it that it is. So the spontaneity isn't a separate element. The spontaneity is also these non-dual textures. Non-dual textures just meaning that which has no form, position, center, or edge, and yet is luminously intimate. So you feel it so profoundly, right? It's that clear. And it also is the spontaneity. It itself is that spontaneity, which is really a beautiful thing, right? This is clear non-dual. There's nothing to pull apart from anything else to act on anything else, right? So then what's left? Well, sometimes, and there may not be this for you at all, but sometimes there's this subtle self-sense remaining, this subtle sense of I somewhere around, even though you can see that it doesn't have a place to be, it doesn't have a time in which to exist, it doesn't have volition or doership, obviously, but it still can feel like something can crowd in on occasion or cause contraction or something, and it just feels like some remnant of a self. That could be there. It may not be there, actually. So that's something to pay attention to. It's a little tricky to go after it because what are you going to go after it with? Like, but inquiry can still happen. You can still kind of inquire into like the sense of I am. Does it have any meaning whatsoever? Does it have any coloring of your experience whatsoever to think of anything like I am, or whether I exist or I don't exist? Is there any charge to that whatsoever? Or those mere thoughts, So that's the only thing that I would suggest looking into. Otherwise, as you know, the commitment to the process, the commitment to the Dharma, to the natural unfolding and unbinding that will continue infinitely, no trace enlightenment, that's already doing itself. And your full participation is like, what else are you going to do? It's just this natural enjoyment of being alive, right? So, yeah, that sound right?
Yeah, and it does pop up in situations that self and different, like it depends on situation. It sort of appears a little, and it's kind of at times too. It's
good. Yeah, just keep an eye on it, and just ask yourself when it appears. Ask yourself what were the conditions, or what are the beliefs about the conditions of the moment by which the sense of that self seemed to be relevant. That something like that. You can just kind of look into what is the setup for it, and what are the beliefs around it. And even though there's nothing to look for it with, the act of trying to look for it somewhat kind of burns itself up. It's like stirring the stick with the fire until the stick is burned into the fire, that kind of a thing. So it doesn't require effort. It just requires interest at this point. Kind of like Katie was describing with the experience of dread. It's just this fascination, and there's a joy in that exploration. Same thing. Nice work, man.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. I really like your videos. You're like really good, great videos.
Glad they're helpful. Yeah. Awesome. Lisa, do you have anything to say?
No, likely not. I'm pretty much where Brandon is, so I don't think I have any experience to offer right now, but I really got a lot out of your answer, Angelo, so thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Brandon. That was cool. That was really fun. Stay in touch. Maybe we can interview you on the channel sometime. if you want to. All right, let's go to Ashley. Welcome back, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hi. So sorry, I'm just testing out a new microphone too here at the same
Sounds good.
time that I just
Sounds
got.
great.
So awesome. Um, yeah, so my question today, I actually do have a question, and it's more for, I guess, you, Angelo. So it's um as you know, as I've said yesterday, I guess it was, I'm going to be going back to school and all of that. And I know that you kind of managed all of this while you were in med school. And I'm going to be kind of in the medical field too, I guess, with going into pharmacy technician. And I have to write board exams with this. I have to write law exams with this kind of after I'm done the schooling. So I guess my question is kind of, I guess, managing the energetics that you feel with the people around you who are really, really stressed out. Because I know I really feel into that energy. Like retreat was insane this last year because of the energetics. I can feel it when someone is really having a rough time at work because I work with in the pharmacy and people are often there when they're not having the best of days. And so I guess that's kind of my question, kind of how you manage the energetics of dealing with that, the energetics that kind of arise with that, because changed. Like, so like leading up to this, I was pretty nervous. Like I could feel that nervous energy arising, but there was no mental label around that anymore. But you could still feel those energetics. And then your mind's trying to find out, well, how can I solve this? So
Yeah.
that's my question.
Yeah, the question and the answer are kind of intertwined there because the last part is important, and it can sound flippant, but it's not. It's just true that the mind will still sit there and try to manage, like, okay, how do I do this? How do I approach this? How? And that's maybe 10% of what's going on for you, and the other 90% is the direct experience of all these energetics.
Mhm.
That 90% has tremendous capacity for this. But a practical answer, and it's gonna be a simple one, but it has to be simple for this, is really keeping attention in the sensation field, like really keeping in like the minuscule parts of it, even including when you're listening to somebody or you're empathizing with somebody, you're feeling their pain, you're feeling all of what's going on, but still feeling your hand on the counter or feeling, as you write, feeling the pen move across the paper. Like those subtle things will just it'll keep that conduit open with the infinite through the sense fields. And you know yourself better than anybody, of course. So, it may be one sense field is more poignant for you that way, but doing more than one at once is also really, really helpful. So keeping yourself grounded in the infinite through the sense fields it's kind of similar to the answer I gave somebody else recently, but it really does open up a tremendous vessel to kind of to dissipate the energy, to ground the energy, and to keep those channels open to regulate the energy for you and people around you, because you will be regulating others' energy as well, whether you know it or not. It's going to happen. Like
Mhm.
you're like a sink for that. You're like an antenna, and that's okay, but it does take some intuitive learning about how to manage energy. And again, it's staying in the contact with these vast energy reservoirs we have through the sense fields, through the physical sense. And if there's a specific instance where like someone's really struggling, or there's feeling something very intense coming from someone, maybe it's even directed at you in a workplace environment or something, really find it in your body. Like, okay, where am I feeling this? Really go to it. Like, where is this? Where is it? Where is it? Track it down, feel it, feel it, feel it, feel it, and that's where the money is for you.
Awesome. That's that's so good.
I hope that's helpful. It's
It
and it's
is.
and just it's challenging. Just accept the fact that it is challenging to be in those kind of environments. It's going to be, but
Yeah.
it pays off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for your answer.
Thanks, love. All right. Good to see you. Nina, Bob, Brian, and Robert all at once. The Washington crew, Washington, D.C. crew.
Washington, D.C. crew.
Yo,
in the
yo.
house.
Yo.
Yo, yo, yo. So thanks, Angelo and Lisa, for being here. My first question, I'm glad that you called on me immediately after Ashley, because my first question relates to the Q&A you just had with Ashley. I'm curious about when to use, it's sort of a practice and technique question and a utility question. And it's sort of when to, so just a quick background. I just finished a 10-day Mahasi Sayadaw meditation retreat this morning. And I took your advice sort of, that you gave me permission to, after 3 days, it was so challenging focusing on an object. This mind just can't right now do that very well. And so I went back to what I know, which is inquiry. And my question is when to go, because you've already heard me say before that my prior teacher was Rupert Spira, and he's so much about inquiry and going into what you call, I think, unbound consciousness and just staying there. What was new for me when I came to your teaching is going into the senses. And so, so after a few days, and I gave myself permission to go back to what I know. And so I'm there maybe on the cushion, and there's that fork in the road, and it's, do I ask sort of, who am I? And just rest there in that emptiness? Or do I go from the bird song to the sensation in the chest to, a thought, or I mean, not well, awareness of the thought maybe, but anyway, the senses. So that's my first question. How does one decide, and which one is more beneficial, and in what circumstance, or in what way?
Lisa, do you have anything?
No,
Also, if you guys
no,
can turn off your microphone.
Yep.
Microphone.
Yep.
No, Angelo, I think maybe you should take this one first. Yeah.
Okay, will do. So, you can try a couple things with this, specific to like working with those sense fields and the non-dual textures and so forth. A couple of the orientations that are important is really start from a place of spontaneity or relaxation, meaning you're not trying to impose your expected outcome onto the senses. So like if I say, find the zero distance in the visual field or something, I don't want you to like imagine what that means and try to impose it on your experience, because you'll just struggle. It'll just feel like struggle. It won't be comfortable. Rather, what I want you to do is like, just let that visual field come to you, like fully. Just let it be raw data. Let it be raw data, because it is raw data. And then from that raw data, kind of look at, okay, well, what am I adding to it? Or what would have to be added to this to make it appear as if there's distance? And all you're looking at is the raw data. Don't go into your mind to answer the question. Keep experiencing that raw data. What would have to be added to this experience such that there could be distance? Right. That's just an example. The example of how to go to the experience or let the experience come to you moreover. And then if you introduce an inquiry question, introduce it from the direct experience itself. Don't try to impose a preconceived idea of what it's going to be like, because that will be wrong. Your preconceived idea will be wrong every time. So that's one thing. That's one orientation, is to start from a place of like curiosity and a kind of spontaneity and a relaxation, and that sort of raw data in that field of experience, whether it's visual, sound, auditory, sensation, right? Taste, smell, even. So that's one thing. The other is try different fields. So like sound field, visual field, see which one works the best for what I just said, which one comes to you the simplest and easiest and most spontaneously without any effort, and start there just to get the flavor of that, kind of not in any specific location, or the flavor of The awareness of the sound is the sound. There's no awareness apart from sound, kind of thing. Find which experience it feels the most poignant to work in or the most natural to work in for you. And you can start there, I would say. The other thing you can do is, if that works or you do it for a while, that's great, but you want to kind of look into or explore the other sense fields, is to rotate through them. So you can just kind of go for the sound and just notice in hearing, there is only sound. There's just the heard. There's just what's heard. In seeing, there is only color and form. You just kind of intone that or remind yourself, and then just take in that visual experience fully. In feeling, there is only sensation. And just take it in. And you can actually practice by rotating that way through. There's no specific time interval. Do it for however long feels relevant, 10 seconds or 5, 20 seconds, whatever. And just rotate through those fields. And sometimes that will actually start to really become, I don't know, poignant, alive. And if that feels like too much effort, but you can kind of get the sense of the deepening into the sense fields, if you're picking that up, but it feels like a little bit too much effort to like control your attention constantly like that. That's why after 3 days of focusing on an object, it's really difficult, because it's a mental faculty to try to control your attention, right? Then what you can do once you get the hang of it and the feel of it is you can just sort of do the same thing, but let your attention move naturally to wherever it wants to move. And when it moves there, affirm, in the hearing, there's only the heard. In the sound, there is only the sound. And then wherever your attention moves next, whatever's noticed next, in the visual field, there's only color, form, and shape. In consciousness, there's only thought. And just let your attention continue to move that way. Does that make sense? So everything I just said is kind of a progression, and you can do that over like a month if you want. And spend time with it. Spend time with each little part of it.
So what that sounded like to me, I mean, so maybe I misunderstood originally what you have been saying about going to the senses. What I heard you saying is basically an integration of inquiry and the senses. What I understood going to the senses was just literally just going to sounds, and then sensation, and then, to seeing, maybe as a way to stay grounded in reality and not go off into thought. But it sounds, am I understanding that you're sort of saying to begin to investigate the raw data of direct experience through the 6 sense bases?
Yeah, the two things you
So
just said
sort of a
don't sound
hybrid?
like different. The two things you just said don't sound like different things to me. Like what
Can
you
we
said,
do?
your perception of what I was saying and what I'm actually saying don't sound different.
Okay.
If you do it long enough, it will clarify.
Could what's the most prominent for me right now is what some people call the sound of silence.
Hmm.
Do you know what that means?
I don't know what you mean by it.
Yeah, it's like Bob said, tinnitus. It's like this
Yeah.
high-pitched
Mhm.
sound. Could you walk me through what you mean with that right now?
Well, yeah, when you hear that, right? When you're noticing that sound, does that sound have an edge to it? Does it have a location? Does it feel like it has a location to you? No, it doesn't seem like it's like to the right or left or anything. Good. Okay. Right. Does it have a center? Okay. Is there awareness apart from it? Is there awareness of it that's apart from it somehow? Where would you have to go for that to be the case?
I guess it's sort of stubborn. I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out on that one.
Well, but what's the answer?
Sorry, I'm trying to deal with the sound.
Like the sound that you're experiencing, that not a sound. Which, by the way, is it apart from any other sound in the ambient environment?
I can say that there's no evidence that it's apart.
Good. All right. Now, is there any evidence that there's something called awareness that's aware of that sound? And if so, what does it look like, sound like, or where do you find it?
Thanks for meeting me with where I was at with the languaging. Yeah, no, there's no evidence of that.
You just
know
escaped the
what-
awareness. You just escaped the awareness trap. Some people never do.
That's the awareness trap. Okay,
That's the awareness trap.
I think the one sticking point there, and this has been a frequent issue for me, is that and it's ironic because I do a lot of headless way, as you know, and reality can be very clarified just by bringing my attention back here. And but then ironically, when I close my eyes, I feel all these sensations here, and then I have a face. And that's what, yeah, it's so ironic. It's crazy, but that's what feels like, that's what was listening to that, not a sound.
Yeah.
When
So
you
when
asked the question about awareness.
So when that happens, this is why it can be helpful to do some inquiry instead of just going to the sensations, because you can just go to the sensations. Okay, maybe there is a differentiation between the two things you said when I said that sound like the same thing to me. The reason I talk in the way I talk about the senses is because I could say to anybody, oh, just go to your senses. Oh yeah, I hear all the time. I can hear purely. I can feel purely. As what Dalai Lama said, people can't peel an orange with all their attention. People would be like, oh, I can peel an orange with all my attention. It's like, you think you can, but until you experience non-duality, like until you literally experience non-duality directly, that's when you finally know what it feels like, what feeling actually is. Let me say it that way. What sound actually is. So to just say, oh, just go to the senses and just put your attention in sound, that's fine. But a lot of times our attention will go to sound for a second and bounce into thoughts or into consciousness or whatever, which is fine too. But when we're talking about this subtle and deep realization, you have to be precise about what we're talking about. So this is why inquiry can be helpful in these instances. So the instance I'm talking about is when you close your eyes and you have a face, or it feels like you have a face, because the sensations in your face get overlaid with a map, which is not something you see. It's something you're imagining seeing. It's in the mind. That's a thought, right? So again, this could be tenacious, but just go, okay, what are these sensations like when I set that body map aside? It may be tenacious, but you may notice a subtle difference. And then just keep asking the question, what are these sensations like when I set my face aside? The image of in my mind of the face. I just set it aside, go right back to the sensations. Is there a face there? And you can do that again and again and again until it clarifies, until those sensations are as vast as this entire universe. And also centerless and also dimensionless. I gave you a lot to work with. You got to work with it. There's no thinking about this, stuff. Just go do something with it,
Can I ask you another quick question?
Sure.
Sure. So another thing I did on the retreat, I spent like an entire day investigating beliefs. So I re-listened to the chapter in your book on beliefs, and I did exactly as you said. And I was just telling Robert, I think I found myself on the spectrum, that sentinel belief. I think I found myself a little bit on the challenging side. Anyway, so, but then I got the hang of it, and they started coming one after the other, and it was just like opening a can of worms. And I think it really just opened me up a lot. And then I spent a lot of the retreat crying and experiencing unworthiness and all kinds of emotions for the first time ever, at least consciously. And I guess my question is how to proceed with that process.
Yeah, just keep at it. Periodically go back to do that. Beliefs are also sticky, and they can be subtle, and they can be hidden for sure. And so I'm personally still always on alert for any belief that they get harder and harder and harder to see, though, because they're just kind of like how the relative world seems to be structured. That's all beliefs do anymore. So in very, very like broad ways. So it's really interesting. But just always being open to doing that kind of process. And if it ever feels like you want to sit down and do it intensively for a day, do it. And writing can be helpful. Writing with that can be helpful, because it slows you down. It slows your processing down to actually have to write out a question or write out an answer or an observation. So yeah, great work, man. You're doing great work. Those are the two areas I always recommend. Don't overlook working in beliefs and also in direct experience. Both of those are critical in deeper realization.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Angela.
You're so welcome. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Let's go up to Jeffrey.
Okay. Can you hear me on my laptop microphone?
I sure do.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. First, well, a couple weeks ago on a live chat, I typed in a thing that I had lots of questions for a long time that I never asked because it's immediately obvious that they're just doubt. So here I am with doubt. Somehow this one seemed like worth asking. The first thing is unbound consciousness and presence. Are those words pointing at the same thing that's not a thing?
Well, I can answer this really quickly because I have a video on this. It's called "What Do I Mean When I Say Presence?" And you can search my YouTube channel and find it. And I answer exactly that question.
Okay, good. Okay, so I've done a lot of TRE for a long time, and also kind of just spontaneous intuitive movement, and they've kind of merged. And fairly recently, I don't remember if I was actually doing that or sitting, but it just like an intuition popped up that I personally was using it as a bypass. It's kind of like bucketing water out from behind a dam blocking a river, and it wasn't really addressing the dam at all. And what the dam seems to be is that, like if I sit, presence is just there. It is most of the time, unless I'm lost in thoughts. And I play with different, like visually or in sound or in touch. It's there. And then there's this really subtle, it's like I turned it into an it, like there's me and there's it. And so I start playing with where's the line between those two, and is there any difference between them? And what happens over and over and over again is there's this sensation of things starting to kind of break up, and then I'll just go "Wah!" and start twitching around and go off into the thought stream. And then sometime later, oh yeah, then I'll go back and do it again. And I just wanted to make sure I don't see anything else to do, but the thought keeps coming that I'm either doing it wrong, which is that's a habit, or that I'm doing it prematurely.
Okay, good question. Lisa, do you have anything?
I was, trying to really understand and grasp what you were saying. So does it feel like that it's doubt that's kind of coming in and messing around with everything? Or is there another thought that's coming in or a belief that's coming in that seems to be kind of breaking up the flow or seemingly, stopping something. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, doubt is why I'm here on the screen right now. But the actual practice, that just kind of unfolds. And doubt is very secondary. It's like when I'm not doing it, did I just waste a couple hours there? Should I be doing that? But when I'm doing it, there's not anything else to do, really. I mean, it just comes up. There's presence, and then there's this kind of a very subtle me and presence as an object, and then I investigate where, what's going on with that, and then something kind of blows up, and I spin off into the thought stream.
Yes. Okay. So what do you think is the sort of fundamental belief that you have? Do you feel like you're not awake? Is that the belief that you have, that you're trying to become awake, or is there another one?
That I don't even know about anymore. I had like an early awakening that went really bad in like 1965, like really, really bad. And I never even talked about it until I was 50 to anybody ever. Because one of the big issues, the badnesses, was about lack of control, which goes back to kind of infant medical trauma, and there's a whole big story about it. But I was absolutely certain in the moment that if I mentioned it to anybody, I would end up in a locked ward on forced medication. And so I kind of made myself forget about it in a way. But presence became extremely obvious and never went away. And I used to go outside, make up excuses, go outside at night, like pee in the backyard when I was in high school, so that because being outdoors alone, like under the sky, made that much more obvious. It's like something kind of lit up, and I was kind of afraid of it and attracted to it at the same time. But I don't even know what I'm talking about at this point. What was the question?
That's okay. No, it's perfect. I'm following.
Awake, yeah. So I don't know, something from that stuck, and my thought about it, my kind of belief thing is that even though I've done just a crap load of therapy and TRE and stuff, that I kind of have short-circuited deeper state realization by being locked down in fear and shame around that whole, whatever that was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'm feeling more inclined to just say to you, from what I'm sort of feeling by what you're saying, is because I think the thoughts are really sort of hammering at you about all of this, and to maybe just take some time, like you talked about, like being outside where you can feel the presence, and take a little more time just taking the pressure off and just feeling and being in a place of calm presence, where you feel quite comfortable and free, and you don't have to worry about your process or awakening. And I think that will help sort of the nervous system to kind of level out a little bit better. And at times you'll be sort of drawn to get into inquiry and to do all your practices like that. But at other times, I think it could be very beneficial just to sort of let yourself just be and put yourself in an environment that feels very nurturing and quiet and peaceful, because the nervous system probably did have a lot to deal with, and it's just going to sort of unfold by itself. And when there is doubt, there is almost definitely some emotional sort of hindrances in doubt, like worthiness is a huge one with doubt. And that one, I mean, I talked about the victim with one of the first speakers. I
Yeah.
can't remember her name now, but the worthiness, the low worth, even though there really is no such thing as low self-worth, but the sort of the conditioning of it is just as powerful as the victim conditioning. And it does take a lot of time to just kind of balance itself out and calm down in your experience. I don't know if that helped, but I just felt sort of
Yeah, thank you. That's
okay.
kind of reaffirming, because I've kind of designed my life that way. I've been retired for quite a while, and
Yeah.
I don't really do much. You know, I do some practice, I work out, I eat, I walk out, I go out for walks every day, regardless of the weather, for at least like 45 minutes or an hour, sometimes a couple hours. I take a nap. That's what I do.
Great. It sounds like my life too. So I think it's perfect. And there, you know, don't underestimate the power of healing in just being and not having a lot of stimulation in your life. Because if you don't have a lot of stimulation in your life and activity, because it's the way it's meant to be, and that's the way that it needs to be for you to have awakening, you know, come through you. So keep nurturing that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Jeff, with everything she said. The only other thing I wanted to add is like just an acknowledgement that you have vastly more capacity and clarity than you probably realize. Like just talking to you, I can sense it. So there's a tremendous amount of clarity there. And yeah, the little bit of the specter of doubt in the background, it seems to take up more space than it really takes up. But ultimately, it's a thought. You know, it's one thought popping up here and there. But the clarity is there, and it will just continue to spontaneously unfold.
Yeah, it's a little bit like being locked in a room with a crazy person. You know, it's just
Yeah,
they're just yammering over in the corner there. They're not.
got to
It's
share
not
the
a big,
space.
not a big person, not a very strong person. They're not going to beat me up or anything, but they're just making a hell of a lot of noise all the time.
Yeah, the mind can be a little bit rowdy sometimes.
I want to give them like a big dose of Benadryl or something, old school knockout drops.
All right. Well, good to hear from you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's go to Ahmet.
Hey, Angelo, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Awesome. It's my first time here. So I just came out from a retreat, 7-day retreat with diets. And it just left this experience of like more space for thoughts to happen without they anchoring that much. They still have like this pull, but it's easier to just let them pass, or just like call them like, oh, this is a sound based thought or an image based thought, and that makes it easier for like this clarity not to get hooked. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Totally.
Okay. So there's also like sometimes like a sense of joy that it's coming from just nowhere, that it's just spontaneous. And well, after something that happens a lot is there's this there comes a thought, and I just put like this label on it, and I inquire about it, like who's even doing this, like what's the word? This noting. Who's doing this noting?
Mm-hmm.
So is that good practice? Should I just stay there with that? Like
You can. I mean, you can just rest in this clarity that's obvious.
Mhm.
The but your question at the end was good because it reminded me of the beginning of what I kind of felt when you started talking, and you were describing noticing you can notice the thoughts without reaction, and they just kind of come and go. Obviously, if that's happening, there's a sense of the thoughts, there's a sense of some space through which they're moving, and some sense of a point of view from which that's
Yeah.
being noticed. Okay. Is it possible that what your experience of you is all of that at once?
Okay.
Because it's seamless. It's all the same stuff, which has no name. We won't give it a name, but it's all the same stuff. The thought, the perception of the thought, the field through which the thought is moving, and the one that's aware of the thought or not aware of the thought. All of it, the attention moving, all of it is all the same substance. Can you sense that?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Just rest there.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all I have
Thank-
for you. Lisa may
Thank
have something
you.
to say. Sure. It was nice hearing from you.
Yeah.
No, I don't have anything to add, Angelo. That was great. Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
You're
you
welcome,
both.
my friend. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Now we're gonna go to Bernd.
Hey everybody.
Hey, hey.
Hi. I actually took notes because it's hard to remember what I wanted to describe. So in the last weeks and months, a lot of insights happened, and the last days, non-dual stuff. And I looked again at Adyashanti, and he talked about silence. It was like, before that, I always thought about it, and now it seems like he's describing what's happening. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, and today I looked again at the feather stuff from Kevin because I remember that I had a very negative reaction to him or something, so that I didn't want to look. But then today I looked again, and in the beginning you said something like, I don't know if it's true, but it feels like, if I remember, it's obvious that there is no self. But before you said something, there can be this lingering of a self sense somewhere. And today some stuff happened with my neighbor, and I could see that, like, the contraction and the being angry at him and having fear and the me being someone, it's all the same thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it else. So, but then Kevin said something in the video that, like, when you work with memories or something, that you don't have to react to them. But then he said something, but then I didn't pay attention anymore. He said something like, yeah, but if you don't go further, it will always feel bad, even though you don't react to it anymore. It will still feel contracted, or you will still have, like, if the fear is in the throat, it will still come. You just don't react to it. But my sense was that you guys talked about something like, yeah, when you keep on doing, I don't know what, that's my question actually, I think. Even this doesn't happen anymore. Like that you feel like you have a memory and you feel bad because of the memory or something along the line. So, like, if that makes sense, it would be great if you could talk about it.
Well, I mean, based on what you're describing, like starting with the discussion with your neighbor and so forth,
Yeah.
I feel like for you, the thing to look at would just be reactivity, to see if it's
Yeah.
there and work directly with that, because the things beyond that get very subtle, and reactivity is not subtle. So it makes it hard to see the subtle, right? So it's like, don't put the cart before the horse kind of thing. Like, I would work with what's coming up for you. And if reactivity is coming up, look into it. Go, well, what are my beliefs about this? What are my beliefs about the neighbor? What he should have done or shouldn't have done? What are the emotions and feelings I'm experiencing?
Okay.
And does that make sense?
Yeah, but I feel like I came to the end of this, because I can see, yeah, the mind comes up with stories about my neighbor, that he should be different and my mom shouldn't react to him like he does. And I guess the really subtle beliefs are that I have to manage it. You know, my neighbor acts a little bit weird. My mom gets sad about it, and I need to do something about it. You know,
Okay.
and it's like, yeah, no, do I? And then I was like, yeah, my mom is upset, so I go and talk with him, and
Yeah.
then afterwards on the couch, the whole reaction came, like the fear and the contraction,
Okay.
and it lasted for a while. No, yeah.
That's
I was kind of, after the last days, I was kind of surprised how visceral it came back and how good I know it. Like,
good.
it feels like home, but it's so uncomfortable now.
Good. That's what I mean by doing reactivity work. You're doing it right
Yeah.
now. It's very
Okay.
uncomfortable.
Okay.
Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And there can be a surprising amount of it, you know, like, well, I don't know
Yeah.
about a surprising amount. You may have to revisit certain things multiple times, but
Yeah.
just keep getting closer and closer, like to the middle of that reaction, whatever's there, with the uncomfortableness. If you're getting to that really intense uncomfortableness, you're doing it right.
Yeah, but now
It's
it's not at
valuable.
but now it's not go to the body sensation, go to the thought, go to, it's going there where you never went.
Yeah,
Does
that's
it
right.
make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. It's where you never wanted to go. That's right. That's
Yeah,
how it feels.
but it isn't really here, because when I go into the senses, yeah, my throat feels and
Yeah.
blah, and my thoughts go crazy. So
Yeah. That's one
it
of the
feels like,
things about reactivity work, though, is if you
yeah,
try to go into direct experience too much, you can kind of
yeah,
bypass it. You have to go to
yeah,
the reaction. You have to find that's why it's key to make a point of looking for the reaction, or else that's how you can get people who are pretty deeply realized but can be kind of pretty reactive still, or they can have some weird personality stuff going on because they didn't do this. So I think it's really good to do it. And if you're getting to that really uncomfortable place, that's a good thing. Don't tell yourself,
yeah.
oh, this isn't really happening. Let me just go right into my sensations and
Oh,
kind of disappear into nothingness. You can do that. You can meditate away anything, but sometimes you're bypassing. So,
yeah.
but I think
So
you're doing good work.
I don't want to take too much time, but this just reminds me that I also realized that for the longest time I had the belief that, okay, if there is no self, that means there's nothing. And today I realized that's bullshit. That it's like,
Yeah.
how can there be nothing? And
Right.
yeah, okay, but
Yeah. Those mental ideas we get early on about like self and no self and nothing and everything in the universe. And that's why like imprecise teachings, although they sometimes point well because they give you a sense of what people are pointing to, but it can
yeah,
get so confusing when it's like everything and nothing and all these, like, the mind will try to put that together and it just can't do it. You have to directly realize it, and then it'll be obvious and it won't be a problem. But I
yeah.
think you're in a good territory.
Thank you. It feels
Yeah.
confusing. That's the main thing, I guess.
No, it totally does feel confusing. That's
Yeah,
okay. Confusing, you can treat it like an emotion too. Just go, oh, I'm feeling confusion. Confusion's here. How does it
yeah,
feel? Ooh, I don't like confusion.
yeah,
Wow, I don't like to be confused. What do I usually do when I feel confused? Oh, that's when I go distract myself with X, Y, and Z. Like, you can learn a lot from our reaction to
yeah.
confusion. Humans don't like confusion. It's probably under discussed, actually. Maybe I'll make
Okay.
a video about it. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank
Let's
you.
go to Ray. We have, I think, enough time for Ray, and then Lisa and I can both answer.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Angelo, how you doing, man?
I'm
Been a
doing
while.
great. Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right. Not exactly sure what to talk about. It's all kind of scattered, but there's a lot. It feels like my mind opened up with the mushrooms and I disassociated a little bit, and it's kind of coming together. It's coming back together now, the mind and the body. It kind of feels like that. I have like emotional blockages with people, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. And I feel it right now, like the cracky in the voice, because I'm talking to you and all the people around. There's something about being looked at. I guess I'm here to work on that while at the same time I have ideas of what I can do, and I'm doing stuff now. I'm being vulnerable, more vulnerable in the world. But there's like the ego, it's still trying to, moment by moment by moment, still trying to grab, or I'm still grasping onto things, beliefs about things that are very deep. But it feels like every day there's something, it feels like I'm reading my own book right now. Every day, you know, the synchronicities and stuff like that. And I'm here, even though I know I feel like I have all the answers and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So I don't really know why I'm here because it's all like kind of going already.
All right.
So it's validation, yeah. But
Thank you for sharing. Lisa, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, you're tuning into the synchronicities, and that means that I mean, we're all being guided. Awakening is guiding everything. But when we can tune into the synchronicities and the day by day sort of messages and everything that comes up on the plate that day, showing us what's here right now that just wants to be acknowledged, felt, looked at, recognized, and you just keep going with that. You can only work with what shows up right now, and you will, it seems to me that you're more than capable of being tuned into yourself, into your process. And so you just sort of keep following the breadcrumbs, I call it, as emotions come up. If there's like a heavy dissociated feeling or some fear, you stay with that. And that might last a day or like a week or a month. And you stay with that. And it's to the ego, it might not feel like there's sort of progress being made, but there definitely is. And you're just doing it, you know, you're just doing it.
yeah,
And yeah, there's no doubt at all that you're doing great.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find the results outside, like the way people respond to me, the way I can understand what they're saying, and I understand in the feeling dimension too now. And that's like such a beautiful thing. It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, everything that happens in your world and in the external right now at this point is happening for you, and you're very aware of that and very intuitively in touch with that. And that's it's wonderful to have that kind of access into this awakening that's happening, you know, through you. So you just keep going with it, and it'll just keep getting more amazing and mysterious and wonderful. So even through the very difficult emotional parts as well, you'll find a lot of, you know, amazement and joy in that at times as well. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ray, I think you're doing great. And kudos for taking the, you know, initiative to speak when it's uncomfortable and so forth. You're obviously a very sensitive person, which is wonderful. But there's a whole skill set to being a sensitive person in this world that's
Yes.
really critical to function well and to not disassociate.
Yes.
And when you're waking up, there's a whole other set of skill set on top of that. So you have in one sense, you have a hard road to hoe because of that.
Yeah.
But you're not the only person in the world that's going through this either. You're now in a community of a lot of them. So you know, trust yourself. Your intuition you're into it to get more and more and more in tune with your own intuition until you feel your intuition physically. And you're moving from your own intuition. That's a very powerful place to be. So you have a lot of power. You have more power than you realize, but your power comes from your vulnerability. It's tricky.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you know what I'm
Yes.
saying. I know you can feel what I'm saying. And so you
Yeah.
have a tremendous amount of love for everything. And that is also challenging in this world. So so you're just one of those really special people.
The middle
And
way.
what's that? Yeah,
middle
you're
way.
just like, you're just one of those really
Yeah.
special people. Anyone who comes in contact with you benefits from your energy, from your presence for sure. And just learn to trust yourself more and more deeply, and that learn to find that tremendous amount of strength and power that actually is in vulnerability. It really is. But you just got to thoroughly understand it, energetically digest it, get familiar with it more and more and more. Just really get yourself grounded in that territory of openness and trust, and having good boundaries is always important too, of course, and that can require sometimes some external knowledge and stuff, but you're in a good place.
Thank you. I really
You're so
appreciate you
welcome.
guys.
Yeah, you're so welcome. All right, before I finish, I just want to read one last thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but someone left a comment question, and they don't. The English isn't their first language, so I'm just going to I'm going to briefly answer it because it's not a hard one to answer. This person's named Kaio. The question is essentially along the lines of a couple of other questioners here. This person is pretty clearly deeply realized. And there's not a lot left, but there's just those subtle fixations, those subtle sticky places, and even subtle behaviors that can be tripping you up and so forth. So it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? I would look into whether there might be any reactivity remaining. That's probably valuable. You can look at my playlist on equanimity. You can also look at Fetters 4 and 5, or the series I have with Kevin Shanelek, because again, when things get subtle, it can sometimes be helpful to have a process to look at these subtle things. But you're in a good place for sure with what you wrote here. And it does get tricky and subtle. It can also be helpful working one-on-one with somebody who's a non-dual facilitator. So consider all of those things. And Lisa, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. Hopefully we'll see you again. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Angelo, for inviting me yet again. So I appreciate your confidence, and I really enjoyed speaking with everybody. So thanks.
And how can people find your resources if they want to can you just describe briefly what you do?
Yeah, so I do energy work, and I specifically tailor my energy sessions for people who are on this self-realization path. These are the only people that I work with now, and I basically, through the energy work, help to create some energetic openings that may be causing a sticking point anywhere along the path of your unfoldment of awakening. That's basically what I do. And if anybody's interested, my website is lisamalcolmawaken.com. And I think you posted it on my other interview video if anybody wanted to go back and get the link. So
Yep. And I'll post it on the recording of this as well. So thanks again.
great.
All right, y'all. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks again for your support. See you when we see you next.